In this video, I'm going to show you how I created a concrete countertop for a vanity with a vessel sink. We're going to start by creating our mold. We're going to be using 3/4 inch melamine. I'm going to go ahead and use the track saw and cut it down into our desired size for our vanity. Our vanity top is going to be 22 by 38 inches, so we just cut a piece that size, and then we're going to cut some borders to finish off our mold. We want our vanity top to be 1.5 inches thick, so we're going to add 3/4 inch to that for making our borders at 2 1/4 inch. I cut one of the 3 borders we made in half for our short end of our mold. Next, I'm going to go ahead and wipe everything down with some mineral spirits and clean it. Probably easier now before we assemble it. As I install my borders, I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill so we don't split out the melamine, and I'm putting screws about every 6 inches. I started with lining up one end and just letting the other end run wild. I've seen where people say it makes it easier to disassemble the mold after everything's cured, so there's no need to cut these sides to the exact dimensions, and you can see we're kind of just making that star shape, lining it up on one end, let it run wild the other. Then when it's done, I come back and I also put a screw in to each of my corners. Probably a little bit of an overkill, but I did it anyways. Being that I work out of my garage that has a natural slope to the outside, I have to level my table. I check it 3 ways, left and right, front to back, and diagonal. I just used some random scrap wood I had laying around to shim up my table so it'd be steady and level. We're going to go ahead and silicone all of the seams in our mold. We're using light gray. I did notice, and I've heard people say, that your silicone can discolor your concrete a little bit. So we try to keep it to the same color as what your final product's going to be. I was using this little tool I have for putting a finish in the silicone, but it ended up being more trouble than it was worth, so I just used my finger. Moving on to making a knockout for our drain. We're going to be using a vessel sink right in the middle, and our faucet's going to come out of the wall. So I just got my hole saw and found one that was bigger on the inside of the hole saw than the outside of my drain, and I cut some plugs out of my styrofoam insulation that I have here. And then I cut them down to 1.5 inches, which is the thickness of our countertop when we're complete. Wrapped it in some packing tape so the concrete wouldn't stick, and installed it in the middle of our mold. We used a screw with a washer to hold that plug down, and also to smash it down far enough so when we screed our concrete, it just goes over the top of it and it doesn't hang us up. For our reinforcement in this concrete, we're going to use some stucco netting. Now it's time to start pouring the concrete, or in our case, the mortar. While mixing up the mortar, we added a little bit of this charcoal concrete tint to it. Video recording and mixing mortar at the same time is not easy. We used a little bit of WD-40 as our mold release. It worked very well. Just sprayed it on and wiped off the excess. mixed half a bag at a time. Once we got the 2 batches in, where it was a full bag, that's when I installed my reinforcement. And even before then, we shook it a little bit and vibrated it. And now we're just putting our mesh in and sticking it down into it a little bit and topping it off with about another half a bag. We ended up doing a lot of vibrating of this material while we were screeding. Ended up not having quite enough, so I had to mix up a little batch by hand. You can see it was a little discolored, but being on the bottom, I can't even tell now because we didn't put any tint in that little batch I made by hand. And we just keep working it for quite a while. I allowed it to cure for about 3 days, and then we came in to do the unmolding. I know they say you can cover it with like plastic so it cures a little slower and it'll be harder. I didn't, and I didn't see the need for it either. After doing a little cleanup and removing all the screws, we were able to take our first border off, and it came off very easily. The only thing that stuck was the silicone. I'm going to flip it so I can take this bottom off of our form, and it actually slipped. The only thing holding it was our knockout for our drain. So once I did flip it, that thing came right off. This back corner right here is probably our worst spot, which is easy. We'll just put that against the wall. It's actually very easy to remove the knockout. I just pushed it with my thumb, had to put a little pressure on it, but it just popped right down. Now that we got this vanity top all out of the mold, we're going to let it sit. I think I ended up letting it sit for another like 6 or 7 days because I didn't have time to get back out here. I'm going to do a little carving on this. We did get a vessel sink, and you could see how it has that taper at the bottom. I tried one of those rings and I never got one. I think I tried 2 of them, sent them both back because they didn't line up. So I just got this bit and I attached it to my drill. This is a cheap off of Amazon, like diamond bit cone thing, and I just shaped that, and with it being fairly green, it went right through it. We just kept working it until that sink sat down in there nice and flush. After I was done with the top, I flipped it over and did the bottom as well, because that drain has a cone gasket and a washer and a big nut. We did sand the bottom just with 120 grit just to knock everything down, nothing too special. And then we flipped it back, the top up, and we did 400 grit with a wet sand, going in one direction, front to back, and then left to right. No swirling, just straight passes. When the sanding was done, we gave it a good wipe down with some water and then let it dry overnight and started the sealing process. There are many sealers out there. This is the one I used just because it had a matte finish, or it didn't change the finish at all that I could even notice. But it did say saturate it, so we did a good saturation with a roller on the bottom, and that's the only coat we did on the bottom, and it sealed it pretty good. Then we flipped it over, and I think I ended up doing 2 coats with the roller and then another coat with a brush here in a second that you'll see. It was just hard. It was sucking it in so much to get a good saturation. By the time we got to the second and third coat, it took a lot less, and it was beating up already even for the sealer itself. that third coat. I gave it about 4 hours and then came out and applied a coat of wax, just in small swirl patterns. It looks a little blotchy at first, but when it was done, a lot of that soaked in and it wasn't looking that way. And then we did the good old water test, and I mean, you could just blow it around on there. Now with us being finished, if you enjoyed those, please give a like and subscribe, because next we're going to have a video on building the vanity itself. And this is all a precursor for we're doing a master bathroom remodel coming up, and we're going to try to put all that on this channel as well.